All right. This meeting of the Littleton Licensing Authority shall come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chair Cole.
Here.
Vice Chair Lavier.
Here.
Authority Member Buchanan.
Here.
Authority Member Day. Authority Member Schock.
Here.
Authority Member Webb. Authority Member Winsek.
Here. Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I will move to approve the agenda.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? So we have an approval of the agenda. Item 3A, certification of the April 13th, 2016 journal. I will move to approve, based on the clerk's certification, the April 13th video as the journal for the April 13th, 2016 regular meeting of the Littleton Licensing Authority.
I will second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So we've approved the certification of the April 13th minutes. The next item on the agenda is 5A, liquor license application hearing. We have an application from Angelino's Taverna and Carboy Winery, LLC.
Angelo's Taverna.
Angelo's, excuse me. We have a representative from the applicant.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the authority. My name is Dan Carr. My registration number is 8224. I'm with the law firm of Dill, Carr, Stonebreaker, and Hutchings. Here on behalf of the applicant and present with me this evening is Craig Jones, who is one of the partners on that particular application.
Good evening, Mr. Carr. Do we normally allow the applicant to start out if you have a little presentation you want to give. Otherwise, if you do, go ahead and get started, and
Sure.
We can ask questions. And
Let me ask the authority if you would mind just inquiring whether anybody is here this evening in opposition to the application. I don't believe so, but if you could just inquire, then I will tailor my presentation to that fact.
sure. Do we have a sign-in sheet? We will know in just a moment. Actually, while we're waiting, in the meantime, we have several exhibits. Do I hear a motion to enter those exhibits so we can consider them?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we admit to the hearing exhibits A through G.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right. Thank you. It looks like there's a Mr. Jones here. Is Mr. Jones here?
He's the applicant.
He's the applicant, okay. So I don't have anyone else signed up. Is there anyone else here tonight who would like to speak on behalf of or in opposition to the application? It looks like we don't. I can't guarantee that someone won't come in during the hearing, but if you want to go ahead and get started.
Mr. Chairman, let me do it this way then. With that in mind, I'd like to give you a summary of what we're doing and what we're hoping to do, and then allow you, in the event that you have any questions, to either question myself or Mr. Jones. With regards to the application before you, we were previously notified by the clerk's office that the application was in complete order and that nothing was missing. And then obviously you've now adopted and accepted the exhibits that have been entered into evidence. But with regards to those exhibits, probably the most telling one is the petitions. If you looked at those petitions, what you would find out is that almost 600 doors were knocked on. Over 300 of those people voiced an interest, a positive interest in the granting of this particular application. There are only 4 people who had any question. They really didn't say no, they just really weren't prepared to support it. With regards to this application, quite honestly, you're kind of going into new territory, pioneer territory, along with Mr. Jones and his partners in the event that you were to grant this application. I know you haven't seen this license application before. I don't mean his, I mean a license application for a vintner's license. And quite honestly, I stand before you with my first one, despite the fact that I've done this for almost 40 years, and I can't even tell you how many license applications I've handled. There actually is only one other license in the state of Colorado, and when Craig came to see me, I was unaware that that one even existed, but there is one up in the mountains that has been granted. It's kind of a unique breed of animal, probably the closest thing that you've seen is a brew pub. Now, obviously, the difference here is we're talking about a winery. And so you've got basically kind of two operations going on. One is a winery facility that will be hopefully manufacturing wine. It has various capacities to sell that wine on a pretty broad scale, much broader than we see in other applications. And then there's a restaurant. With regards to this particular application, I can't think of a better person to be heading up this operation than Craig. I've known Mr. Jones for probably close to 10 years now. He started his career with Outback, worked his way up through the ranks of Outback, was very successful there, and made a decision at one point in time to go out on his own. He currently has 3 licenses in the city and county of Denver, none of them similar to this one, obviously, because this is a brand new adventure. The newest of those is actually not a tavern, but it's an application on East 6th Avenue that some of you may have been to before, called Angelo's. Angelo's has been in the city of Denver for probably 60 or 70 years. It was on the total demise. It was about to tank when Craig approached the family that had ran it that entire time and was able to strike a deal with them and the landlord. He put a huge amount of money into that particular building to revitalize it, that area, and it is an unbelievably successful restaurant now. Went from basically a family pizza place with a little bit of pasta to a very well-rounded facility that has an oyster bar and is very upscale. And quite honestly, if you don't get there early in the evening, you're not going to get a seat these days. So it's a great revitalization of a property that needed it. In addition, he has 2 licenses in Denver, Pub on Pearl and Pub on Penn. Those are more similar to a tavern application that you would see. As you note in the application, he's been able to successfully run those businesses, short of one hiccup, not by him, but by some employee, I think back in 2011. He has a fantastic track record, never had any issues at Outback, has not had any issues personally, other than this one by an employee. And that's with a lot of years of hospitality industry training and experience. From the standpoint of operational, which typically the boards are typically concerned about, I see absolutely no possibility of an issue with regards to his control of alcohol in this, which is of primary concern to you. He's been incredibly successful at the operations he's got. He's going to follow through with the policies and procedures that he's got in place at those particular facilities, with an added layer of training, because obviously we're doing something new. And by doing something new, there's potential new pitfalls that you have to watch out for. So Craig is prepared to utilize the services of whoever he needs to make sure that there's adequate training for the staff based upon the uniqueness of this particular license. So that is an overview of what we're hoping to do. I think he brings a very vital and great addition to the city of Littleton. I don't live here, but my sister lives over on Ridge Road and has lived there for 30 years. So I'm in Littleton a lot. And I was very pleased when Breckenridge, which is another one of our clients, chose the location they did. And then when Craig came and told me he was doing this, I said, based upon your track record, I can't imagine you don't hit a home run, but let's go give it a whirl and see what we can do. So that's an overview of what we're after. We're prepared to answer any questions that you might have, and/or I can present a specific testimony from Craig if you want to hear it in that fashion.
Questions from the authority?
I think the first question, and probably the obvious one, is on the individual history report for Robert Pacheco.
Yes.
There is a check mark for yes of having a conviction for crime. Can you go into any explanations for that?
As it explains on there, he was convicted with regards to an alcohol driving offense. He happens to be Mr. Jones's father-in-law. He's really a passive investor on this particular thing. He won't be operational. But even if he were operational, I don't see it as an issue. He successfully completed what he needed to complete for the court system with regards to that. And obviously, he understands that it was a mistake, and I don't anticipate it's ever going to be revisited.
All right, and then so under that, guys, then it's only the one issue and no other incidents that would qualify.
With Mr. Robert Pacheco?
Yes.
Sorry, before you start, Mr. Jones, could I just have you step up and I'll swear you in? We don't swear, well, sorry, just up to the microphone. We don't swear in attorneys because they have their own. But will you raise your right hand, and do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this authority is truthful?
Yes.
And then if you don't mind, just will you state your full name, please?
Craig Michael Jones.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. Go ahead.
Yeah, before I start here, just want to do a couple corrections on what Mr. Carr said. Angelo's has been there for 45 years. Before that, it was Vertelli's for 20 years. So yes, close to 70 years, a name change there. And then I am a part owner of a tavern across the street from Regis University, and I have not filled Mr. Carr in on that. So,
Well, even more experience that I wasn't even aware of.
but I just want to get that out there, just so everything else seemed spot on, I think.
Do you have any other questions?
No, just confirming that the yes check mark is limited simply to that DUI incident, and there are no other incidents
That is correct.
to disclose. All right, great, thank you.
How long have you had the interest in the other licenses that are listed?
With Outback Steakhouse, my name was on the liquor license for 15 years. And then with Pub on Pearl, August of 2008. And then Pub on Pennsylvania on 1287 Pennsylvania for 6 years. And then for Rocky Top, across the street from Regis University, for January was 2 years, so just a little over 2 years.
Thank you.
And then Angelo's on 6th Avenue, we took over in March 3 years ago, closed down for 3 months for renovation, reopened on August 21st. So August will be 3 years.
Thank you.
Craig, I'm going to ask on your application, question 8C, had any interest in any other entity that had alcohol beverage license suspended or revoked? You have a yes. Can you give us an explanation on that?
Yeah, that's with regards to the indication I made with regards to the violation at Pub on Penn.
1287 Pennsylvania.
When you answer that question, if you're related to a license,
Right.
and anybody there has had a problem, the only proper way to answer that question is to say yes. Craig
Correct.
personally has not had any problems, but that particular license had a problem.
On that one there, we did have an employee that failed a liquor sting violation, and then we went in front of the city of Denver, and I believe it was a fine. I think it was a fine that we paid for that.
How long ago was that?
You know, that was, and I apologize, I don't know the exact date, we might have it in here, but 3 or 4 years ago. But I apologize, I do not have that. I can find
The application indicates March of 2011, and it was a 14-day suspension with a fine in lieu of 6 days and 8 days held in abeyance.
Okay.
So,
So can you say that one more time? So it was
14-day suspension, but it was taken care of through a fine in lieu of 6 days of the suspension, and then 8 days were held in abeyance. So
we weren't closed for 8 days, though.
No, that was held in abeyance. And
usually that's like if you're clean for a certain period of time, they'll waive the 8 days.
Okay, I understand.
It's nice to see you don't know the terms because you haven't been through it a lot.
Yeah, you don't have to.
It's a good thing.
So if you knew all about it, that could be a problem.
Yeah,
I handled that violation, and
but the point is, it sounds like it was in 2011. Does that sound accurate?
Pardon me?
It sounds like it was in 2011. Does that sound
That
accurate?
sounds pretty
Okay.
darn accurate.
Okay.
That was taken out of my records, and I'm the one who handled that, so.
What kind of training do you provide for employees, and what are you planning on for this particular license? It sounds like, since this is a new license, you have some enhanced training in mind or some different training?
On this one, we're going to go above and beyond. I'll be honest with you, I have not had any tip certified at the other locations. We do it in-house. You know, my partners and I walk by tables ongoing. Table 23, how old are they? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? We sit down and we just constantly, you know, talk about it in our alley rallies and our server meetings. But we really do hold our employees accountable, you know, to say, okay, you just ID'd the person that sat at B4 at the bar. How old are they? And that's something we came up with on our own. Like, that was one of the things. And then also at Pub on Penn, we had the servers had these vouchers, and they put in how many customers they had that night, and they have to write their birth date on the back. So I have, from that date, I have 5 years of boxes of every person that's been in a Pub on Penn, and their birth date on the back.
Would
So
you mind?
that's something that we come up with on our own. So we feel we do get creative and go above and beyond, you know, what some of our peers do.
Would you mind just getting a little closer to the mic?
apologies.
That's okay. This is our record, so we want to make sure we
Yes.
pick it. Yeah,
Do
that
you
sounds
want me to
better.
Repeat that, though, just the vouchers and how we keep track of those?
Sure, if you don't mind. Yeah. it wouldn't be
Yeah,
bad.
so from that date, we have every single server validate with our Aloha computer system how many customers they wait on every single shift. And on the back of it, they have to put their birth date on it. So when you come in, you know, you're born January 26th of 1969, you order a Bud Light, they put that on the thing. And so we put that there just in case. We hope it never happens again. But if we ever had an employee fail that with 4 years or 5 years or 6 years of every single ID being written down, that's just something we were really proud of there.
Okay. And what are you planning on doing differently with this new
This
license?
new location, we've talked about doing tips certified, as well as implementing, you know. We still have some due diligence to do of getting prepared for this license, but we're going to go above and beyond and do tip certified with every single employee at this location.
And how many employees do you anticipate hiring?
50 to 60.
So it's pretty large, is larger than your other operations.
Correct. It is going to be larger.
So will there be managers on duty all the time?
There will be managers. There will be an owner on duty, not 100% of the time, but we have, in all my locations, an owner that works 40 to 55 hours a week. Every single location has an owner in place, and they're there. So, you know, I anticipate that on this location that the owner is Gabriel, and he'll be there 55 hours a week. I plan on being there 50 hours a week for the first couple of years, because this is going to be very intense. And and then on top of that, we'll have 4 full-time managers.
When you say owner, do you mean manager, or do
No,
you mean
he
someone
will
who has
he will be coming on as an owner. No, he has not yet. We do not have an operating agreement or a buy and sell yet, so he will be coming on.
And I believe when that happens, then you'll submit him for a background check and get him on the license.
That is correct.
And for clarification, because I think in a vacuum, that kind of gets lost. Gabriel is a chef who Craig's been speaking to, who he intends to bring on. And in order to get his expertise, a piece of the package is going to be that he has an opportunity to reap some benefits from it.
So he will get sweat equity then?
Yes, he would be fully vested 6 years after we open, is when it's like stock options. So he will be vested 6 years from when we open.
So it's a full-service restaurant? Will it be a full-service restaurant in addition to serving wine?
Correct. It's
Okay.
full service.
Along that line, maybe it would be helpful if you took us through, because we haven't seen a vintner's license before, kind of the vision and what's different about this. Why isn't it just a restaurant that serves wine? And what you do differently?
Yeah. You want to go first?
Sure. Let me give you the legal side of it, and then Craig can give you the operational side of it. It is, in fact, a full-service restaurant with a manufacturing facility next door to it. That's why I was kind of giving it the idea of the brew pub. But obviously on the manufacturing side, you'll be able to manufacture and to sell to consumers at the location. You'll be able to sell to retailers. And then in the restaurant itself, there'll be a full-service restaurant. There is a food requirement similar to what you see in an H&R, except it's only 15% here. Now, Craig anticipates being way above that because of the expertise, one, of Gabriel. This is going to be, it's going to be a top-notch restaurant. This is going to be, and not to diss my other clients, but this isn't going to be some burger joint. This is going to be a very good full-scale restaurant, and then with the added benefit that you've got this winery next door. But and then the layer of what he's talking about, the layer of additional training is that's something that most people who've worked in the industry aren't familiar with, and that's the piece that needs to be melded into this. Something else that you should be aware of is throughout this process, Craig has had a great, well, one, he is the president of the Colorado Restaurant Association.
Director.
Oh, director. I'm giving him more duties. At any rate, he's at the top of the chain. And then in addition to that, Pat Maroney, who is the head of state liquor, has been interested in this license because it's a new breed and something that's not happening all the time. So he's been a great source of information to Craig, and once we decide where we're at and how far we're going, we can always reach out to him if we need to for some additional training from the state level.
So is the manufacturing, for lack of a better term, next door, is that licensed through the state? Or is it,
Us, I think.
it's this, okay, okay,
And then on top of it, there's a federal layer,
okay,
the TTB, which is in process as well.
okay.
The winery is a separate building from the restaurant? Or
No,
will it be attached?
it is one building. That is one business. Angelo's Taverna and Carboy Winery is going to have one bank account number, one EIN number. It's one business, but we are putting the winery, the producing side, on the south end of the building.
I was looking at your description here, and you do have like a separate bar in the winery with 24 seats is what you're planning, but it'll all be in one
It's all one,
overarching
yeah.
building.
If
Okay.
customers can go from the winery into the restaurant with a glass of wine, and they can carry it back and forth from the restaurant into the winery and vice versa.
Have you created a menu yet for the restaurant?
The restaurant is about 90% similar to what we have at Angelo's on 6th Avenue. So you'll have grilled oyster, raw oysters, authentic Italian appetizers, homemade pasta. We'll keep the same, there's about 6 items from the original Angelo's owners, the Labio family. The same meatballs, the same sausage for 40 years, the same tiramisu, the same pizza dough, and the same red sauce.
Do you have, I didn't see it on the, but do you have any outside seating?
Yes, there is a outdoor patio that, will have, it would be fenced in. It will have signs, no alcohol beyond this point, and but there is some outdoor seating.
Okay.
Is that then this, I'm looking at the application, there's a red outline on this small map. There's a lot of information in here that I'm trying to parse through.
Yeah.
Is the red outline, is that the entire licensed premises then?
What's the question?
Is the red outline representative of the licensed premises?
That would be correct.
Is that where the fence would be, or would the fence be?
Yeah, the fence would be, if you look, you see the 10 tables, the 10 little tables on one side of the page?
Right side.
On the right side of the page?
Okay.
And so the fence would start there and would travel west. And so, yeah, that entire area is going to be fenced in, except when you get to where the sidewalk area is there will probably be like a, the fence will have an openings for, wheelchairs and groups of 2 or 3 people walk in at the exact same time to be able to get in and out of there. So that would be the area there where the sidewalk is, where it would say no alcohol beyond this point.
And then how many seats within the restaurant itself?
In the restaurant, the Angelo's with the banquet room is 200, and then the winery has 9 tables that are all 36-inch tables, so that's 9 times 4, so 36, plus the bar stools. And then the patio has, I believe, 16 tables, all 36-inch squares that are, so 16 times 4 on the patio.
Is the manufacturing, is that this top middle section?
The manufacturing is, I don't know if you want me to walk up there, but do you see where the circle, the big circle?
Yes.
That whole square there, that's Angelo's. You got the banquet room, the dining room, the big circle bar, and the bathrooms. That's where we're going to really concentrate on the Italian service of Angelo's. Once you cross into that, and they're both spaces are 5,000 square feet roughly. So Angelo's 5,000, producing side, the manufacturing side is another 5,000. Small tables, more of a tasting room area, and then obviously, that's in the daytime we'll be blending wine. You'll see the fermentation tanks, the stainless steel tanks. That similar to what you see in a brewery. You'll walk in there, and the first thing you're probably going to think is brewery, but those stainless steel tanks will have wine in them.
And will you store all the wine you produce on site here? Because it sounds like you're imagining quite a bit of production.
If, we don't know how big the production is going to go, but if it does grow to something that we've talked about in some of our directionals, then RNDC or Grand Vin just down the street would become the distributor at that point. And so then you would be shipping that wine out there, whatever it calls for on a weekly or monthly basis, based off of volume.
So you will be kind of like a brew pub where they'll see them making the wine?
That is correct. Yes, when you walk into the producing side, you're going to see barrels, the casks that are going to be aging wine, and you'll see the stainless steel. And then in the daytime, we'll have the equipment out where we will be bottling, or kegging the wine.
Just curious where you're getting your grapes.
I'm glad you asked. At first, we're not doing any fermentation there, so when I said that, I almost stopped right there. We're just blending wine. So what we're doing is we're wine negotiants. So we have customized crushings in Italy, France, Spain, California, Oregon. We bring the finished wine, young wine, the minute it's ready to come out of the barrels, we take it at that point, ship it here in 264-gallon totes. We bring it here, we hook the hose up, put it in our tank, and one of our 2 winemakers will blend the wine. If it's if he wants to do a red, he might do an 80% cab with a 20% Merlot, so we can still call it, Alexander Valley Cabernet. But it's bottled in Colorado. It's going to be a Colorado product at that point.
Is there future plan to do any fermentation there, or is this the model?
Yeah, there's a very small, the winemakers, you want to give people that experience. So I would say if we did 20,000 gallons of wine, that 1,000 to 2,000 gallons would be done on site, a good mixer, a Syrah or a Zin, that you would take so that you could add 1 or 2%, just the smallest amount. Because if you add 2% to a Russian River Pinot Noir, it changes it completely. 2% into that 100% changes it completely, and that's what's so amazing about that. We will do a little, very, very little fermentation.
There'll be a lot of wine tastings, I assume.
There'll be a lot of wine tastings?
Yeah.
Correct. I think there'll be, yes.
So have you guys made employee policies already for how much they can drink, or if they're going to be allowed to drink?
Oh, good point. Yes. Very responsible. When you're on duty there, the employees would, if they did taste it, they need to spit it out into a spit cup while they're on. Yeah. So that's the policy.
Are you a SOM at any level?
I've taken a class, and we had 5 of our employees take it this year, including my wife, which is behind me with my mother and my daughter. And 2 of the employees scored 100. My wife scored a 90, and another guy scored a 93, and I scored a 73. So I was embarrassed, So I'm working on it.
What's your anticipated opening date?
We're shooting for August 21st is what our goal is. We've had some weather, and but right now that's what we're shooting for. So I would say between August 21st and somewhere in September is what seems to be looking like it could happen.
Colleen, do you know what the dates for Western Welcome Week is?
Right around the week of August 20th.
What was that?
Western Welcome Week is a big to-do in Littleton. All the small businesses get together, they throw a parade, there's a pancake breakfast, which is my favorite. A great networking opportunity, and lots of people come to Littleton. It's several thousand people on Main Street, Littleton. Main Street gets shut down, and there's vendors in the street, so.
One of the council members brought that up to me and said I should get a hold of one of the boutique wine shops on Main Street. And so we've got a list of things we've got to get caught up in, and that is an event that we did talk about. So looking forward to that. That's going to be a very important part of our successes is volunteerism, and we have a proven track record with that at Angelo's and Outback. I mean, always have events on the calendar.
Were you asking specifically in relation to the taste that's held in the middle of the week?
I was not. No,
But go on.
Something to think about. We can check.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions from the authority? Let me just ask if there was anyone else. I don't see anyone that's come in since we first asked, but anyone else in the public that wants to speak? All right. Any discussion or a motion from the authority?
I would just note that since this is a new type of license and it's a little different than what you've been doing, I think taking part in the TIPS training is a great idea, and I'd encourage you to really follow through on that.
I will
That's all
follow through
would
on
say
that.
Well, it seems like it's going to be new.
I mean, if it's not TIP certified, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but if it's not TIP certified, it'd be something similar to that, and that would come from the recommendation of our council.
Just the extra training sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I think you're going to have a whole new clientele versus what you've been used to. It seems like more of an over-serving than underage serving. You're going to have a different clientele, I think, versus what you're used to, right? Pubs?
Man, I don't think so. I think
No?
we have the diversity of the neighborhood, which is everybody at Angelo's. I mean, literally everybody. And I hope that we're crossing our fingers we can duplicate that there, that it's gonna range, from 21 to 101 with their kids. It is not fine dining. It is very casual. If you look at our price point, it's, entrees are $12 to $18. I mean, all homemade food. So this is something that most restaurants don't have that passion for food.
All right. Anyone want to make a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and that a resolution of the Littleton Licensing Authority be approved, which grants Angelo's Taverna and Cowboy Winery LLC doing business as Angelo's Taverna and Cowboy Winery, 6885 South Santa Fe Drive, Littleton, Colorado, a Vintner's Restaurant liquor license, contingent upon approval by the Colorado Liquor Enforcement Division and based upon the following findings of fact. Number one, that notice of the hearing was properly posted and published. Number two, that the applicant has possession of the premises and the premises are suitable for the requested license. Number three, that the needs of the neighborhood are not now being met. Number four, that the desire of the adult inhabitants of the neighborhood that the license be issued. Number five, that existing similar liquor licenses in the designated neighborhood are not adequate. And number six, the applicant is of good moral character, record, and reputation.
And I'll go ahead and note that the name is Carboy
Carboy.
Winery, and I will provide my second to that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Looks to me like everything's in order, and you have anything? Okay. Clerk, please poll the authority.
Chair Cole,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lavere,
Yes.
Authority Member Buchanan,
Yes.
Authority Member Schock,
Yes.
Authority Member Winsek.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Congratulations. And last item, it sounds like you're in good touch with the state. Please also be in good touch with the city if there are any questions, since this is something new. We really encourage licensees now to be, proactive in asking if there's ever any question about how to do things the right way. So,
Well, Colleen's been incredibly helpful, and in fact, she just responded to emails and questions, and also talked to the state, and so the information is flowing both ways.
All right.
Thank you very, very much.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Good luck.
We will see you in there.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is 7B, renewal hearings. We have a hearing on renewal application for D&D Enterprises, Inc., doing business as D's Tavern, 819 West Littleton Boulevard, Littleton, Colorado. Is there a representative of the licensee? Come on up. Would you mind giving us your name for the record?
Dennis Santasteven.
And are you by chance an attorney?
No, I'm not.
Okay, then will you raise your right hand, and do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this authority is truthful?
Yes.
All right. Looks like we also have several exhibits. I'm going to move, we enter exhibits A through L into the record.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So would the city like to start with what brought us here, that we aren't otherwise administratively approving the renewal?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this originally came before you as a pre-renewal last month based on some unfiled and unpaid state sales taxes. Since that time, and you'll find in your packet, the licensee has entered into a repayment plan with the city. Their first payment, I believe, is due next week. Is that correct, Dennis? Yes. And then also you'll find in your packet some police reports that were not part of the initial pre-renewal hearing.
Okay. Do you, anything that you, we have the paperwork, we have the agreement about the tax agreement you entered into with the city. Is there anything additional you want to let us know about, other than you've agreed to pay it and you're on track? Is that?
That's all that I wanted to make clear. Also, for the record, I did reach out to Eric Green in finance prior to any of this coming to light. We realized we were in the arrears in sales tax. Reached out to him for a payment plan back in March of 2016 when Colleen informed me the reason for the renewal not being issued. So this has been an ongoing process. We've been trying to make right with finance for a while now. So we're doing everything on our end to comply. We fully intend to comply. We operate a very safe, clean, responsible business, and we intend to do for many years to come here in the city of Littleton.
Is there anything, was the lack of paying them, was it an administrative issue? Was it that you didn't have the money? Is there anything you can give us that would indicate why it won't happen going forward?
It was a little bit of both. We had a outside consultant working with us when we opened the business in December of 2014. My business partner, David Basio, and I are new to the business, so we reached out to a consultant who had over 30 years in the industry. He didn't get the taxes filed in a timely manner, and that's one of the reasons we fell behind. Another reason was cash flow purposes, positive cash flow. Being a new business, we're learning as we go. Summer months are the slow months for this business, so that's where the majority of the arrears came from, and then it was just trying to get caught up. So now that we're a year into the business, we've established positive cash flow, and we're moving in the right direction.
So even though we're heading into the summer months, you feel confident that you'll have the cash flow to pay
Exactly.
your current sales taxes as well as the arrears?
As well as the arrears, exactly.
Okay.
And that's a stipulation of the agreement, is to remain current as well as the arrear payment.
Questions from the authority?
And who handles that now?
I do myself.
You do.
Yeah. Handle all the accounting myself.
Are there, I don't know if you have a copy, but as Colleen mentioned, there were also, in the regular course of a renewal, the city asks the police department for a report about activity. there were several, I guess, incidents, for lack of a better term, that are noted. Is there anything I mean, we have the police reports for us to be able to review. Is there anything that you wanted to say about those, or are there any questions from the authority about any of those?
As far as the reports go, even prior to opening the business, I reached out to Commander Hal Maylander, this Littleton Police Department, probably a month before we even opened. Wanted to introduce myself to him and his staff and get a feel for, when do I call you? When do I need your services? He's like, the sooner the better. When there's alcohol involved, the sooner the better. He says, never wait till it gets too late. So all of the incident reports that have come through over the last, what have we been open now, 16 months, none of them have been overly excessive. I haven't been found in violation of over-serving. My staff has not been found in violation of over-serving. It's been where customers tend, especially couples, tend to get to arguing, domestic related. We have to escort them out. In the parking lot, it escalates, so we call the police. Another one was an incident where a gentleman was literally sitting at my bar for an hour and a half. He had one beer and became extremely incoherent. He had left my establishment 2 hours prior, so that led us to believe that he took something other than alcohol. So when he became incoherent, that's when we called the police. So the incidents, I believe, have been somewhat minimal. I would like to even decrease those more with responsible training and getting my staff more up to date and letting me know as far as when we need to make that call, not waiting too late. Thank you.
Any other questions? Do you have any additional training that you plan to do beyond what you've done now with your staff?
We do. We have implemented a new training, implementing first of the month, every month. We're going to go through some new training purposes. All of my staff is becoming TIP certified. Dee's Tavern is paying for that, for them to go through that program. That right there alone teaches them how to properly check for IDs, look for fake IDs, as well as indications that a person may have had too much to drink. So yes, we're definitely moving in the right direction with training purposes.
Are there any free training programs out there?
Not that I'm aware of.
I thought Jefferson County might have some free ones. I'm not sure. Okay.
Not that I'm aware of either. The TIP certification is the most common one, and that's because it covers many different areas of the business.
I assume these are your initials and signature on this agreement to pay,
Correct.
and you carefully read through the 5 items that you initialed next to.
Yes.
And do you feel this is fair and in line with?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, Eric Green and I came to a mutual agreement, Eric Green in finance, for the arrears and the prepayments, the payment schedule. So it's definitely affordable on Dee's Tavern's end and much appreciated.
And if you were to fall into arrears again, some other stipulations kick into effect, namely penalties and interest, the potential for loss of license and or seizure of personal property. And it says here that you understand that, so you can confirm.
Without being in compliance, I do understand that, yes.
No further questions.
With, you said summer kind of slows down. What's your outlook on being able to make those payments in the summer?
So what I've done already since the beginning of the year is I've set funds to the side to help us get through the slow months of, typically it starts in May. It's May, June, July, August, and we generally don't see a turnaround until September, usually Labor Day.
Has business increased overall? Have you seen that happen in the past year?
Oh, yes, most definitely, most definitely.
All right, any other questions? This is a public hearing, so I don't see anyone else here, but I'm going to give anyone the opportunity to speak. All right, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion. I move that the renewal application for D&D Enterprises, Inc., doing business as D's Tavern, 819 West Littleton Boulevard, be approved, subject to the following conditions. Licensee shall pay all outstanding taxes due to the City of Littleton in accordance with the agreement to pay dated May 3rd, 2016. And 2, licensee shall remain current in filing returns and payment of taxes to the City of Littleton. The foregoing is based on the finding of fact that notice of the hearing was posted on the licensed premises for a period of 10 days, and notice of the hearing was provided to the licensee at least 10 days prior to the hearing.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? It looks to me like the agreement will be sufficient as far as the taxes go, and I just wanted to note that the activity reports from the city, from the police department, nothing seemed particularly egregious. Obviously, we weren't, the licensee wasn't here on a violation prior, and just want to note that it is a good thing to call the police. So we certainly don't want that to be a discouragement. So it looks to me like everything is in order. Anything else for discussion? Will the clerk please poll the authority?
Chair Cole,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lavere,
Yes.
Authority Member Buchanan,
Yes.
Authority Member Schock,
Yes.
Authority Member Winsack.
Yes.
That passes. Best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Authority Chair, authority members, thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks. Have a good evening. Next item on our agenda is 16A, Staff Liquor Code Update.
I was hoping to bring you an update on a code amendment that we're going to be bringing forward to the liquor code, and I do not have that prepared for you, so my apologies. We have, pushed it on the council agenda into July, so I will bring that to you in June to discuss.
Okay.
And then if I could mention just one thing real quick before the city attorney moves on to the next item. Last month, Vice Chair Lavere asked about the occupation tax table, and that table was last updated in 1985. However, in 2008, there were some changes to the Colorado Liquor Code that lifted the ban on sales on Sundays and Christmas, except for retail liquor establishments. So that will be part of the liquor code update, as we will be bringing that in line with what it actually is versus what it should have been in 85.
But the occupation taxes is on, was there a ban on serving in a restaurant?
Yes, at one point, and you could get special licenses, and that's where that extra fee came in.
Okay.
But that is not
So it's
a case anymore.
been antiquated through other
Absolutely.
activities. Okay, so we're
So
not
that-
supposed to be collecting it.
Right, and we haven't been.
Right, good.
But it's still in the code, so that is part of what we're updating.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. 16A, number 2, is retail marijuana.
So we are on second reading of an ordinance allowing the licensing of retail marijuana stores in Littleton. That will be heard on Tuesday in front of City Council. And the ordinance pretty much mirrors the regulatory framework we have set up for medical dispensaries. And some of the policy questions that are before council are whether they want to grandfather in the existing locations and allow all the locations to be able to elect to either convert to a retail license or convert to a dual retail and medical license, or whether they want to require that if you're going to convert to a retail license, you need to find a conforming location. 2 of the stores are in locations that meet all the distance restrictions in the code, distances from parks and schools and daycares, and 2 are not. I think primarily because they violate the park buffer. As you know, there's a dispensary right over here that
South
Geneva
Flat Park
that-
is-
Yes, causes them to violate that buffer. So that's one of the things that council will be looking at. Additionally, whether or not if an establishment is allowed to have both a retail and a medical license, whether they are allowed to have separate entrances and continue to serve the 18-year-old patients in the medical and the 21-year-old and up in the retail, or whether council would want to require that in order to have both licenses, everyone going in the door needs to be over 21. So that'll be another item that we're talking about.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Do you think they would simply go with the grandfather, or would they change the requirement? Is it a state requirement on the parks? Because they had talked about, well, maybe we make it just parks with playgrounds.
Right. So no, it's not a state requirement. That's a local restriction. There is a federal law that deals with marijuana near school playgrounds. But we are just dealing right now with, I mean, we wouldn't enforce that law. That would be an issue for the dispensaries to make sure they aren't violating federal law. But we can put in those restrictions in our local code. So.
Yeah. I was just noticing that I tried to look at that map, and maybe I can get a copy of a nice detailed one. But it looks like there's really not any other locations where these places can go. Maybe over by the Harley Davidson.
Yes, I think down south, there are some areas that they could move into. So when you look at the map, I think it's the gray areas where they would not be hitting in any of the buffers.
I just remember seeing most of those gray areas were either residential houses or just already developed, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think it could be difficult.
Is there a draft right now? Did you say it's?
Yes,
no?
so it was already approved on first reading.
On first, okay.
And then, so yes, there's a draft that would be online in the council
Okay.
packet from 2 weeks ago. I've made a few changes to it based on comments that I've received primarily from the current dispensary owners. One change, for example, is that I had drafted it so that there's a limit on how much you can sell to residents of Colorado versus non-residents, and it's a different amount than you can sell for medical marijuana. And medical marijuana is set up so that you can only sell that amount per day, and that is what I had set it up for retail. The problem is that when you're selling retail marijuana, you simply check an ID for age, and you can't take down any of their personal information. So you'd have no way to track whether you had sold to someone in the morning and then sold again to them. So like that change, I've proposed that it be changed to per transaction.
Is there a limit on the total number? Is it four? Of retail?
Yes, so what is being
It's four.
proposed is just continuing with the 4 licenses, no increase in those numbers.
Oh, no increase in the total number of either medical or retail?
Correct.
So there would be
There'll only be four
Only four,
locations.
period, and okay, so the question would be about what, if they're a mix or, okay,
Yes.
okay. Any other questions?
What options are there if the current medical licensee holder doesn't want to do retail?
They can stay with their medical marijuana license and continue to operate.
Who's
as
going to
that.
have that authority to appoint someone else, that license?
So there would only be 4 locations total, so all of them could stay as medical, some could convert to both.
Or partner or something? If say they didn't even want the retail, but they'll give space out to retail?
They would still have to be the license holder.
They would?
I will say that the square footage is still limited, so it really shouldn't look much different to the citizens of Littleton, because it will still be enclosed within a 2,000 square foot footprint. And so they would essentially be dividing, and I think almost all of them are at that limit, would be dividing that space that they have into 2 sort of smaller stores. So from the street, it shouldn't look too much different other than.
Well, is there anticipated like a large increase in traffic with those and the impact that would have? I mean, medical is fairly, I drive by the one on down Littleton Boulevard, and I've had people do stupid things pulling out of that lot, and if there's going to be another 50 people a day, I worry about that a little bit, given that location. But
Yeah,
That's been
I would
considered
hope not.
wrong.
I know that the police chief testified in front of council, and he did not anticipate there being any problems with the conversion, so, but we didn't look at traffic.
I know
concerns, so.
Green Solution was in front of council 2 weeks ago, and maybe a week ago. They testified that they get 40 or 50 cars a day, people showing up thinking that they do recreational at that location, and they have to send them on down the road. They give them a coupon to try and entice them to go down to their other location, which is within the city of Denver.
Interesting.
That was interesting testimony, yeah.
That's a good point. They probably
So
have
they're
these-
related to each other then? the
Yeah,
entities.
So, and
So technically,
as
the traffic's already there.
Some of it's built in, yeah.
the city of Littleton voters did approve a special sales tax on retail marijuana, so we do have that in place. So if they convert, we will receive not only our standard sales tax, but this additional marijuana tax, and as well as a share of the special state tax that's collected. So.
All right. Anything else from staff? Do we have any business currently for the June meeting?
We do. We have a new 3-2 license. I believe we have a probable cause that'll be coming before you in June, and potentially one more new license. We're going to try and see if we can make that happen, but the deadline is pretty much like tomorrow. So if that doesn't happen, you'll have that in July.
Okay.
I have a question for Kristen. How about the way the legislature's going now with this supermarket now going to the full? How will that affect the licenses?
You had the time to read all of it, right? Like the last 8 hours?
I mean, since they did it yesterday.
You can give me a call a day before the hearing, give me a heads up, and I won't be upset taking that call.
It's funny, part of my staff report, I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I spent the entire day just in this, and I can tell you anything you want to know.
Anything interesting?
All the 3.2 licenses that are out there, 3.2 is basically going away. If Governor Hickenlooper signs this, 3.2 is basically going away. Fermented malt will still exist and malt will still exist, but these 3.2 holders will, on January 1st of 2019, be able to sell more, a higher volume or a higher percentage. With regards to the grocery stores, in this bill, it's referenced as drugstores. And drugstore locations in 2017, starting with January 1, 2017, will be able to, they'll be able to expand from 1 to a total of 5. Statewide, through the year 2022. When they try to convert a new location to a drugstore, they must acquire at least two other licensed locations, licensed retail store locations within the licensing authority area. And if there's more than two, if this puts it as more than two, they must acquire all retail stores within 1,500 feet. So if we look at Broadway Mineral right now, the King Supers there theoretically cannot get a drugstore license because the Safeway is within 1,500 feet and already has a license. So that King Supers would not be able to convert with this law as it is. I know Your Choice Colorado, who is pushing the initiative, the ballot initiative, they're not terribly happy with what the legislature did today, and they have vowed to still go onto the ballot. They're proposing food store licenses, which would allow beer, full-strength beer and wine in all grocery stores and basically all gas station convenience stores. That would take effect in July 1st, 2017, if that was approved by voters. There's a lot of complexity to it.
Wow, yeah.
When's that vote? In November?
November,
Well,
if they make the ballot.
Yeah, they have an initiative they're circulating petitions on. They would have to turn in enough signatures to get it on the ballot. The deadline would be like August, I think.
Is the governor, and is he expected to sign it, or?
I think
Well, that's the big question. He had
50-50.
previously, from a policy standpoint, he had publicly said that he was opposed, I haven't seen anything publicly since the bill passed as to whether or not he would, so.
There's a whole phased-in approach to this, for grocery stores, in 2017, they can get to 5. In 2022, they can get to 8 locations. In 2027, they get to 13. In 2032, they get to 20 locations. In 2037, it's just unlimited. And it's the same approach for local owners of retail stores. In 2017, they can acquire a second location, so that now our liquor store owners can become a chain in earnest. In 2022, they go to 3, and ultimately they get to 5 licenses that they can hold.
Which is kind of sweetening the pot for them, since they're heavily against this right now. Is that a way to?
Well, if they put it strictly to the grocery stores, they're going to put the little guys out of business
Yeah,
completely.
they're forming, they've
Yeah.
already got a group.
But what is interesting is the 1,500-foot restriction. If these liquor stores want to hold out and not sell their license to the grocery store next to them, that 1,500-foot restriction should basically nullify any attempt to get that drugstore license. It seems. This bill is actually fairly poorly written. There's some
Shocking.
holes, there's some things I don't understand. In the original bill, they said that when it gets to that unlimited point, and the unlimited point was in 2027 at that point, that they didn't need to acquire these existing licenses anymore, that they could just apply. And through the amendments that the Senate did, that went by the wayside, so that acquiring 2 licenses to convert to 1 drugstore, it doesn't sunset currently in the bill. I assume they'll fix that next year or year after that.
Well, there's things they don't understand that are going to happen also. You can't go to Chatfield with anything other than 3-2 Beer 2, and now if it disappears, what happens?
Yeah, the parks. Oh, yeah.
Parks will have to update their policies or just not allow alcohol.
Right.
The last thing that I thought was noteworthy was to get a drugstore license, you have to be open to the public. So that means Costco and Sam's cannot get a drugstore license unless they do away with their membership fees.
Well, my understanding is the Sam's Club, they don't have, that's not their liquor store.
Yeah,
It's
not.
inside their building, and anyone can go into that liquor store.
Yeah,
You
it's
don't have to
separate.
have a Sam's card to go into the liquor store.
Well, then that would be one way to do it. If,
Yeah,
if
they
allowed
already do that,
access.
yep.
And they are actually not the owners of the liquor store either. That's a separate entity.
All right.
LLC.
Interesting times. Any other reports from the authority?
I'll give one last
Oh, yeah.
report. And Mr. Schock, I'm sure will really appreciate this, but I am just now completing the LPD Citizens Academy, and that has been so, I want to say entertaining, it's been fun, it's been educational, it's been a great experience, and the Citizens Academy, I recommend to anyone who has not done it.
Awesome. Congratulations.
What does that,
So
what
it's
does that entice?
like a 10-week course. You show up every Thursday night, they feed you food, and every Thursday night there's a new topic. So they'll bring in the K-9 unit one night, they'll bring in drug interdiction another night. You do ride-alongs, you sit in the dispatch and hear calls come in. So you just learn every aspect of the police department and how they operate.
I was in class number 2.
What year was that?
Jeez, I don't remember. It was close to 20 years ago.
Wow.
All right. Item 16-2C, no report from myself. I am going to make a motion that we adjourn. Motion? No, well, we
You
never
don't-
did, but I feel like we should, don't we?
You love,
Really?
you
love the
He's
motions.
the chair.
Tap the
You can do
gavel.
what you'd like. You can run your meeting. You can make a motion to adjourn.
Would you all entertain me, and anyone want to second the motion?
I'll second that motion.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
That's
Back
the best
to
part,
it.
getting the gas.